Welcome to Retaining Purpose, a podcast about staying anchored to what matters most, even when the pace of life and leadership picks up. I am your host, Randy Volk. Today, I am joined by a close friend and someone who has made a major impact in the lives of our youth in the city of Medicine Hat. Levi brings a wealth of knowledge in the realm of youth leadership. He is the youth leader at Hillcrest Church here in town, and continues to work hard with that group and serve the city of Medicine Hat. Welcome, Levi.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you're the first guest on Retaining Purpose. Welcome.
Yeah. Also trying to produce it at the same time here. So if you see me looking down at my laptop here, that's why. Perfect. Absolutely. So Levi, we first met, I think it was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. We met at a citywide function for the youth in this town. Yeah, it was a meeting for our YXH
that's right.
nights. Yeah, that's what we call it.
Yeah. So that was actually my wife and I. We came out and met with the group. And since then, how have things been?
They've been great. I've been in this role. So my title, if you will, is youth coordinator. And I have the privilege of working with Alicia Dirksen. She's the youth pastor at Hillcrest. I work in media at the church as well, but I also work part-time with the youth, and I just love it. It's honestly like probably my dream job, I would say. I've been in this role, I would say, for about maybe 3 years, coming up in July here, and it's just great. I enjoy every minute.
That's awesome. How many youth are in the Hillcrest program?
Oh, man. So I'll tell you, one thing I want to say up front, though, is like I realize our group is larger than most. I think it can be easy when you get into the youth ministry game. Pardon me, I'm getting over a cold here. When you get into youth ministry, it's easy to focus on numbers because you're trying to gauge your success, right? You're trying to figure out, is what we're doing working? And the easiest way to do that is, well, how many people are coming out, right?
Right.
So I preface that by saying that because I don't want people to focus on numbers. We have a larger group. It has its privileges. It has its pros and its cons, I would say. I grew up going to this youth group at Hillcrest, and I loved it. But at the same time, I had friends going to smaller churches, and I would also attend their Friday night events sometimes when they wouldn't conflict with whatever we were doing. And I enjoyed some of those events even more, I would say, because with a smaller group, you can do things you can't do with a larger group.
Yeah, it gets way more intimate.
Yeah. Well, just logistically, like how do you take a group of 80 to 100 kids, how do you take them all laser tag? Yeah. That's logistically just a nightmare.
What age ranges are you talking about for youth? So you're 80 to 100, roughly, at Hillcrest.
Yeah, so our last Tuesday, we just ended for the summer. Yeah. And Alicia, pardon me, we just had our last Tuesday for the summer, and Alicia checked the attendance. And so this is including leaders. We had 99 people out.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Wow.
So, that could be, we probably have like 20 plus leaders. So that could be closer to around 80 students. And we're even missing students on those nights. We have 4 of those are grads, and I don't even think all of them were there.
Crazy.
It's just...
What's the youngest you have in there?
So we have grades 7 to 12 is the demographic.
Okay.
So junior high and senior high.
12 years old, 13, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Ranging from there to 17, 18.
Yeah.
It's a wide range. Around May, we invite the grade 6s who are just finishing up grade 6 to come and join us. So obviously those numbers are a little bit higher for our last week, but that's because a lot of those grade 6s are going to keep coming in the fall too.
Right.
So, it's a large group. There's some weeks it's like hard to keep track of everyone, but it's I love it.
And are
That's
most
great.
of those kids that you're seeing come in, are most of them from Hillcrest? Or like I know coming from myself, Living
Mm-hmm.
Hope, we've had people, some of our youth. So we're that small, intimate youth group.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, we were probably sitting around 6 or 8. Maybe we're up to like 8 or 10 right now.
Yeah.
We've combined our youth and young adults just to get the numbers up a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But we did have youth that would go and participate in the other youth events throughout the city. So are you getting a lot of participation from the other, call it the other churches, or just even the general community? Maybe some kids that aren't even church goers,
Yeah.
but are being brought in by their friends.
So, yeah, I mean, when I went to youth group at Hillcrest growing up, a majority of the people going, I would say 80 to 90%, and that's just a rough guesstimate. I don't have numbers to back that up. But I would say a good number of them were people who attended Hillcrest.
Okay.
Their families are attending Hillcrest. So in turn, their kids are. And that was my situation, right? My parents attended Hillcrest. But there has been a shift, I would say, over the past even 10 years of a lot of those kids now are, I would say if I had to guess, I would say it's at least 50-50 kids who their families are attending Hillcrest.
Yeah.
Could be even lower. But it's no longer just like the families who attend church, their kids are coming to our youth group. They're kids who have heard about youth group through attending summer camp at Whispering Pines. So that's that's a camp that's affiliated with our denomination, so we directly support them. But yeah, so there's kids, hearing about youth group through that, and then they're coming and attending our group. Friends inviting them, and then they're coming along and they're joining, and then they're making that kind of where they, their home base, right?
Sure. So you're seeing some really nice organic growth.
Yeah.
Like unintentional, somewhat.
Yeah.
Organic growth.
But that shift comes with, we have to adapt to that too, right?
Yeah.
When it even comes to, so we had some kids one time come and I think their only reason for coming was to cause trouble, right? So,
right.
And you're like,
Parents said, go do this.
No, yeah, it's not like they're we can be like, oh, I know who your parents are.
No,
I know who your parents are. We're just going to call them up, and they're going to come pick you up. That's not the case with all these kids,
right?
So it's brought a shift in those things, and but yeah, and then I don't even know I can't speak for like the whole YXH network as a whole as to what they're seeing, but yeah, it's definitely a shift from like it used to be, maybe I wouldn't say more cliquey, but it used to be more of a closed group because it was just the kids who were there on Sundays coming on a Tuesday night and having their own thing. They're having their own community. Now it's kids coming whose parents maybe aren't consistently coming, who they don't really know where their faith is at necessarily. So
okay, I want to touch on that a minute because I find that interesting. So if you go back, even to when you were going, what would the numbers have been, like 30, 40, somewhere?
No, they would have been similar.
Even similar numbers.
Yeah, probably 60.
Okay.
60-ish. I mean, it's smaller at times. Yeah. It's hard to say. Yeah.
What creates that change, I guess? Like when you see that shift from that internal, this is our youth group.
Yeah.
Was there anything specific that was done, or was it just something that just kind of happened, that organic nature to it? Because that's one of the challenges, that we have found as a small group is we do get people bringing friends in, but it seems like, you encourage, bring a friend. Yeah. And then you want this to grow. You want it to be more, they're out there talking to their peers and everything. And we just haven't been able to kind of grasp that this is how we want to grow. So, is there anything specific, or is it just something that just occurred over time?
I don't know if it's anything we did. I think it's something that just happened. Unless I'm missing something, which is possible, very possible. I would say, I'm not sure what created that. I would say it's probably organic. I'd say it's the shift, and some people deconstructing in their faith. So, some of these families I know were churchgoers, were regular attenders. They were involved in the church deeply, and now not so much.
Right.
Whether they can deconstruct it or whatever, something has shifted in their belief system, but they still see value in church. And so some of them are sending their kids, I think, because they know that that's just going to be a good place for them to be mentored.
Right.
So they do see value in it. They don't maybe necessarily see value in it for themselves.
Right. That you want your kid to be surrounded by people with good influence, right?
Exactly.
And are you seeing with the youth right now, is there a hunger for the word?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's growing. I think that I've seen this kind of shift of, I'm even especially seeing this online, of Gen Z. Gen Z wants authentic, real relationships. They kind of grew up maybe with experiencing some people who are a bit phony, a bit fake. They want something authentic, and they can smell fake from a mile away.
Yeah, they have major trust issues is the reality, right? Is there's been enough going on in the world where, some of those trust in society and structure has been broken.
And I think that comes with like growing up with an online presence.
Yeah.
The day you were born, the internet was already around.
Yeah.
Social media was already around. And so when you're growing up, depending on how online you are, there's this term, chronically online.
Yeah. I'm sure my family would say that's me. So.
But it's, you can see, it's harder. Like I was just even thinking about this, with Hollywood, back in the day, it was easy for producers or a PR team to kind of surround a person and make them shine a certain way, present themselves a certain way, and we would believe it because there's no other evidence.
Why would you not
contradict that?
Exactly.
Now we're seeing it come out. It's harder for people to hide that. If they do have a nasty side to themselves,
the old skeleton in the closet,
right? It's harder to hide that because if you're, they like the attention, they like being online, so they're sharing, and then people are like, hey, what about, some things not lining up about who you say you are and how you behave.
Right.
So I think maybe that's part of it. Maybe, kids growing up with this online, this online presence, and you're seeing the holes through people pretending to be something that they're actually not.
Right.
So they are searching for something true. They are searching for something authentic, and they're finding it in the Word, in the Bible, in Scripture, in the person of Jesus, and they're finding hope. They're finding freedom. They're finding transformation in who they are in their heart. And so I'd say, that growing up, you're trying to figure out who you are, who you're going to be. You don't necessarily understand who you are at that age, right? And that's been a shift.
No, you definitely don't. And I think that even gets harder with even at an older age now. There really does become a questioning that kind of confusion about a bit of an identity crisis almost, right? Like,
like who's Randy? Is Randy his work?
Yeah.
Is Randy his family? Is he Randy who he is as father? You know, there's all these questions. And, I would say, within the past, I don't know, maybe 50 years, there's been a definitely a shift. 100 years ago, when you were a teenager, you weren't worrying what people thought about you.
No.
Your value was, can you provide for your family? Can you contribute? Are you worth keeping around?
Yes.
Now these are not things that teenagers are worrying about or thinking about.
No.
But now you're kind of like, wait, where's my place in all this? Pardon me. you're thinking, where's my place in all this?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out where your value is and who you are. And, throw in faith into that whole equation, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, your parents, if you grew up in a Christian home.
Yeah, which I did.
Which you did. I did too.
Yeah.
Your parents took you to church.
Yeah.
And you just went because they took you, right?
I had a lot of good naps in the pews, for the record. So, and then whenever you'd lift your head up, it's like the pastor knew you were sleeping,
right? Because
all of a sudden the message was literally, it's like he was talking right at you. Yeah, it was horrible.
But there's like you're going to church because you're like, this sounds great, whatever your experience is. I know people have different experiences in the church growing up, but for me it was just like, this sounds solid. I can agree with most of this. There's nothing wrong here. But there's a certain point where it's like, I actually have to take ownership of this. It has to become mine. So I think, that's definitely something you start seeing senior highs thinking about. Junior high, you're not really thinking
not there
about
yet.
Post-graduation.
No.
You're just thinking about what's next. Well, grade 9 grad, and then moving on to senior high. Yeah. Or high school. So that's, I'd say a lot more senior highs. We recently had this event. I don't know if you heard about this, Rend. It's 21 Days of Prayer that the local YWAM base
I did
put on. And so this is separate from the YXH network that we have, but it's I saw a lot of young senior high youth around that, kind of like, hey, we need to take a stand. We need to take ownership. We need to actually, if we're going to have an impact in our own generation, that has to happen through us.
Right.
So we saw some of that too, and that was super encouraging to see.
Yeah. See, that is exciting when you start to see, it's that confidence build. In the youth. Right. And I think often nowadays what I've seen is, we're so quick. So I'm 51. Yeah. I've got 2 kids, 19, 22 tomorrow, actually, Nora's birthday. And I have the good fortune to be able to work with these kids, but it really, I think for me, it became a shift probably about 5 years ago where, it really became a thing of wanting to mentor the next generation. But a lot of it you can only do through mentoring with humility, right? It's so easy as a 50-year-old to just say, this is the way it's always been done. This is the way we're going to do it. You guys just don't do it right. This generation, the statement I hate the most is, oh my gosh, this generation, when we look right through the window instead of looking in the mirror, realizing we're the ones that raised them. But this generation has so much to offer, and I think we're missing the boat as adults in not tapping into them, right? And actually mentoring, and then also being mentored by them. Like they can start to actually teach us, I find, a lot about what it is to be a good person. Because I'm with you. I think these kids right now are just hungry for good. And they're confused about what good is, because when you talk about that online presence, that chaos of what the online community is right now, the anger and frustration and everything that's being pounded around politically, you really do start to lose focus on just, my wife actually said this. She's like, I just want to be a good Christian, right? A simple, good Christian. I don't need to complicate it. I just want to be a good person. I want to walk in the steps of Jesus. And when you go back to what his messaging and his life was, it was extremely simple. Like it didn't matter. Nobody was higher than anybody else. Nobody was lower than anybody else. And it was just treat everybody with respect. And you get that sense they're hungry for it.
We were, I'm going to be stealing a little bit from our pastor's sermon here on Sunday, but he was talking about, he's preaching on James chapter 1. And James had a mega church. I don't know if people realize this, but he had a church of about 20,000 people, which is crazy for today's standards.
No kidding.
So
Joel Osteen at that point.
Right. And like that being said, maybe it might have been more of a network of house churches, right? But he was overseeing this network of people, and they were being persecuted, and it's very likely they even he was even saying, you know, at some point that they were actually might have been being persecuted by Paul, who was Saul at the time,
Right.
when he was persecuting Christians. But they were worried about things like money, power, fame, all these distractions in their lives. And he said, and then, you know, when trials would hit,
all the same things we're distracted about today.
right, exactly.
Right?
Not much has changed there.
No.
But, pardon me. But he was pleading with this church to like, hey, just because they would get hit with a trial, and then, you know, everything came falling apart. Something would happen in their lives, and, you know, someone passed away, they got sick, or they lost, you know, what they had. And he was pleading with them, and he's like, hey, just right now, I need you to focus on how you're going to handle this trial right now. How are you going to handle this? Because that's actually going to affect the people around you, your family, and your friends. They're watching you.
Right.
You know, they're concerned about you. They're worried about you, but they want to see how you handle this.
Yeah.
And how you handle it is going to actually speak volumes to what God can do through you.
Right.
So he's pleading with him, and then he is sharing a story too about modern day, how he knew a guy who had dealt with cancer treatment, and how he handled that whole situation actually led his family to Christ.
Wow.
So it speaks volumes on how when life gets hard, when crap hits the fan, how you handle it. People are watching, and especially this younger generation. Like, is this person everything they say they are?
Right. Well, I think that's when your true authenticity comes out, is in times of challenge, right?
Yeah. Well, like we were just saying before this interview, the Hot Ones show.
Yeah.
You know, they're
right.
Their guard is down. They're like, what did you just ask me? Yeah, whatever, man. Like,
we're going to do that next week.
Oh my gosh.
But you're right.
Me,
you know, in that moment of your guard goes down, you're not even really hearing what people are even asking you anymore, but you just you have no choice but to be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think the youth today, all the way up into young adults. I was reading a study the other day that said, you know, a 26-year-old man is now on par with what used to be an 18, 19-year-old 50 years ago. Yeah. And that's no slight against 26-year-old man. That's just how, you know, society has morphed, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're looking for that authenticity. And I think often for us mentoring them, it's really easy to put on a facade, right? Yeah. You want to come across as always being strong, knowledgeable. You know, you never wanted to see you in a weak state, which doesn't help anything. You know, vulnerability and humility are two of the most incredible qualities. And two, you know, when you think about Jesus, vulnerability and humility, those were, you know, two paramount pieces to who he was as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, like they're just, what was I going to say? They're looking for something authentic, and you want to build trust with these people, right? And we have shortcomings. We're not perfect. I think an easy thing to do can be to try and show them what you expect out of someone. But in that, you're building up a facade.
Yeah.
You're being fake.
Yeah.
Without maybe even really realizing it. And they can see through that. And that's where that communication can break down, that trust can break down, as they can see you're trying to be someone you're not, but then really you're like, well, I'm trying to show you what I wish I was.
Exactly. Yeah. It's easy to have that mentality. Oh, I wish I was this, or this is how I want to.
So I'm going to show you this.
Be portrayed. Exactly. Yeah. I think when Leanne and I, you know, I started dealing with the youth, took it over back, I guess a couple of years ago now. We didn't have a pastor at the time. We were looking, and it was just, you know, they were still meeting, but it didn't really have any great structure to it. So, you know, I found the passion and I wanted to do this, so took it over, and then finished up that spring, and then Leanne joined me the next fall. And, you know, it's such an incredible feeling, actually. So we had, call it 8 or 10, but you develop these relationships with these young adults, right? These youth. And if you're looking for something quick, go look somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because that trust doesn't happen like this. You know, a lot of these young men and women that we were sitting in a room with, we had grown up with, our kids had grown up with, right? We knew them as babies in diapers.
Right.
And so now you're all of a sudden sitting in a room with them and you have to build trust with them. And that's incredibly hard as an adult. But I think we managed to do it probably through telling some truthful and humbling stories about
Absolutely.
us as kids, as
Vulnerable.
adults,
Yeah.
you know, the mistakes we've made and not hiding anything, right?
Vulnerability will always breed community.
Yeah.
That is always the case. And you would think being vulnerable with someone, you would lose the respect. I think maybe that's a bit of an old school way of thinking. Because maybe that was the case, 50, 100 years ago, but it's not the case right now. If you want to build trust with someone, open up.
Yeah.
Like I was just
admit mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to show emotion.
Yeah.
Apologize even if maybe you weren't the one doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, hey, I know, I played a part in this.
Right.
And I shouldn't have raised my voice or said those things. Without going into too much detail, because I don't want to be vulnerable with whoever's watching this, but there was a young adult I was speaking with, a bit of a younger adult, just graduated recently, and they were maybe struggling with some stuff that they haven't quite accomplished in their life that they feel they should have accomplished at this point. And I said, look, there's things I haven't accomplished yet that I should have at this age that I'm embarrassed a little bit about. And they're kind of like, oh. And,
really? Yeah.
And
because they see you as someone who has it together.
Yeah, but it's stuff they knew about, you know, right? It's stuff that I'm open about, and it's nothing major, but it's just like, I'm like, are you putting these pieces together? Like, I'm also have things that, but here's the thing, that's just the reality of my situation.
Yeah.
That I can't change. I just have to own it at this point, and that's fine. Like, I'm working towards bettering myself in this area, and it doesn't actually matter what people think or how they view, because I just need to focus on getting where I need to be.
Well, and I think what's often misconstrued as well, and I really see this with some of the kids that I talk to, is that, it's like they have to have their whole life mapped out at 16 years old.
Be nice.
Wouldn't it?
Be nice. Yeah.
I can remember going through that as it was, you got to go to university, you got to do this, you got to do that, and
everyone asks you in grade 12, what are your plans for next year?
100%, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're starting to ask you in grade 10.
Yeah.
Have you
thought about university?
Exactly. Have you thought about university? What do you feel like doing? And I think what ends up happening is it creates this anxiety and the stress within them where they, for those that actually don't have it mapped out, some do, and good on you, right?
Yeah.
Some just have that vision right off the bat, but for those that don't, those of us that have navigated life, and even yourself, how old are you, by the way?
31.
So at 31 years old, you've navigated a bunch of life since those years. And I bet you a lot of it isn't really how you thought it was going to go.
No.
Right. And we are constant iterations of the last version of ourselves, and the situations we put ourselves in, the people we start surrounding ourselves with, those are the things that shape and form us into who we are today.
Yeah.
Right. And this season of life that we're in, just speaking quickly on myself, like that season of life for me, when I realized how much I wanted to mentor youth, you kind of have a choice when you realize you're being called to do this. It's like, okay, well, I'm either going to jump in with both feet or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
But it's a season right now, and I'm passionate about it. And that season has led to what we're doing right here, right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what 5 years from now is going to be. I have no idea.
No.
But I'm going to keep putting myself in great situations, and we'll see where life takes me. And I think that message should be brought across more.
You can set goals for yourself.
Absolutely.
But if you don't hit that mark exactly, at least as long as you're moving somewhere.
Yeah.
We talked about this on we have a podcast at our church youth group, and we talked about this one time with Alicia's husband, Tyler.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? Like, take a gap year. Like, he's like, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And now he gets to build and design playgrounds for a living.
There you go.
He loves it.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool job. Anytime he tells someone, they're like, nah, really?
You don't do that.
Really?
Yeah.
But he enjoys what he does.
Yeah.
And he didn't know that right after high school. He worked in retail for a few years. And so honestly, we got kids, you know, who've graduated and they're like, what are you doing next year? And they're like, gap year. I'm like, that's fine.
Okay.
That's okay.
Right.
You know, on
If
average,
you don't know what you want to do, this is what I told both my kids. If you don't know what you want to do something.
Yeah.
Like you have
Just
to
try.
Just try. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Learn a skill.
You'll have on average, I've heard this said, and I mean, maybe the stats even changed because I heard this a while ago, but I've heard on the average person will have 7 career changes over their lifetime. That's not different jobs.
No,
you know, like
different jobs is.
I've had 3 different
more.
jobs in the trades, but that's one career.
Right.
I would consider it as, right?
Yeah.
So I've had.
That's crazy when you think about it. 7 careers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've already had, I would say, 1 major career. Maybe the second, because I worked retail for a bit, and then I was in the trades for a bit, and now I'm working at a church and doing media on the side.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's, you know, maybe my second career change.
Yeah.
And this is honestly where I want to be now. So I don't see too much changing over the next.
But it'll iterate into different avenues within that.
And it already has, right?
Yeah.
You know, like when I first started at the church, I wasn't doing youth. I was just doing media.
Yep.
And then that got added on. And I look back and I'm like, hey, this is what I wanted to do when I was younger. Just work at media and youth at a church. Right. And here I am.
Somebody knew where to put you.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone knew what they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I want to jump over to have a quick look at the citywide stuff. So Hillcrest, the largest youth group out of all the churches in Medicine Hat.
Yeah. Link would be, I don't know what Link's numbers are. They're pretty close though.
They're pretty close. Okay. So we've got, I would say we've got, 2 or 3 that really do kind of fill most of the people, most of the youth they're going to be involved
we have,
in YXH.
I'll list all the churches I can think of off the top of my head. We got Hillcrest, us, Link, First Assembly, River Valley, not River Valley.
River, yeah, I think
River Valley.
River Valley.
Bridge. Sorry, they had the name change at one point, so it confuses me. River Valley Church, Bridge Church, and then Temple sometimes comes out. Yeah, you guys sometimes come out.
Yeah,
but I would say those
are the 5.
Yeah, there's the major ones that help out with planning and stuff.
Yeah, and so big numbers.
Yeah,
well into the hundreds.
Yeah,
and a great group of leaders at these church that obviously have a passion, because most recently you guys did YXH conference here in Medicine Hat.
Yeah.
Walk me through it. What was this? And when did it start?
So, I mean, this started actually right when I got into youth. Josh Smith over at, he's the youth pastor at Link Church.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Plug to Josh.
He had this vision a few years ago to do some sort of citywide conference, because we used to have a conference in Alberta, a youth conference that was called, it was youth conference. It was called YC. Yeah. That would happen in Edmonton at Rogers Place.
Yeah. I remember hearing about this. Yeah. 20,000. Yeah.
Tons of kids coming out. Yeah. Big bands, Christian bands, speakers. It was a May long weekend every year. And then right around COVID, it kind of died down. And it just wasn't feasible anymore, kind of the format they were doing it in. And so Josh, he just saw this need. He felt strongly that something needed to come and replace that. So 3 years ago, he talked with Aaron Party over at First Assembly and said, hey, don't know if you're interested in this, but I want to do a conference. And Aaron was like, hey, that seems like that's a pretty big idea to just start with a conference.
Yeah.
What if we just start with some monthly Friday events, citywide events, where all our churches come together? So we started with that in September 2022. And just every month, each church would take turns hosting, and we would just have worship and a message, and then we call it the after party.
Yeah.
People just hang out, play games, get something from the tuck shop, 9 Square, stuff like that, and just have a good time. And that
Fellowship.
and it was great. And then around December, I think Josh is like, "Hey, are we still going to do this conference?"
And that's December of 22.
Yeah.
So
and-
he's still hot on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Aaron's like, "Oh, if we're still doing conference, we should have been talking about this long ago." So quickly, Josh started booking some artists because weekend events. So we had like a Friday night concert, Saturday night concert, and Sunday night concert. And within actually, I don't think we had a Sunday night the first year concert. It might have been just 2 concerts. But within that, there's worship times and guest speakers coming in and breakout sessions. So a similar format to what YC was. So yeah, we booked up some few concerts. Booked a guest speaker. I think it might have been very last minute if I remember right. And yeah, we held our first conference in 2023. I don't remember the numbers that year, but it would have been somewhere in the 200 to 300 range. It might have been like around 250.
Yep.
Similar to actually what we had this year. But yeah, it was great. It was very last minute, but we pulled together and made it happen. And then we've had 2 of them since.
Nice.
Different talented
May long
artists
weekend.
coming. Yeah, May long weekend.
Yeah. Where do you host it here in town?
It's at Link Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Link
Great
Church
venue.
hosts it. Yeah.
Tons of room.
It's tight, but it's within the budget.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, you want to fill it too, right?
Yeah.
Fill the space.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
maybe one day co-op place.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Who knows?
So we've had some great artists out, like Peabod. It's a great guy based out of Seattle.
Yeah.
We've had Cade Thompson. I think he's in Nashville. Who else? Eli Gable. Who else am I missing? He was on I think American Idol at one point too, or America's Got Talent. But we've had so many different talented artists come out, and we're thankful for all of them too. We had an artist, Gio, come out this past. I did not expect him to accept our offer to come to a small little Medicine Hat town, but he came out. He did a great job. It was a great show.
Yeah, and you just go, I think anyone in that space, they just want to see growth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And,
he definitely has a heart for that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, he did get a concussion right before the show, so I felt a little bit bad for him.
Hopefully nothing that happened. Hopefully nothing that happened at the event.
No, I don't know what caused it. I don't know if what he did to but it wasn't anything that we did, and thankfully. But yeah, I felt bad. I was taking photos for him after for people coming, getting a picture with him, meet and greet. And I had the flash on because that's the current trend is to have the flash on for your photos. That's what looks cool.
Right.
It's very Gen Z.
We got to get trendy.
And then the one lady who's helping with coordinating everything. She's like, "Hey, like,
tone the flash down.
I wonder if the flash is like maybe affecting his concussion." I was like, "Oh shoot, I should have thought of that."
Jeez.
But then I apologized after. He's like, "No, you're good, man. It's fine. It's good."
Too funny.
Yeah.
What do you like? So at an event like that, you got 200 to 300 kids. What would be your one big takeaway from a weekend like that? What makes you want to do 2026?
We just want to see kids come to Christ, to come to know Jesus, and they're going to be great transformation. It's I'd say a similar concept to summer camp.
Okay.
Just these opportunities for you to just come away from your regular routine and encounter the Lord and be surrounded by other people who can be supportive and can pray with you and can speak into your life. There's something incredible that can happen in those situations. And summer camp's not for everyone. I get it. There's some people who are just like, I'm not going out to the middle of nowhere, separated from my everyday life. That can be a big ask for some people.
Yeah, no question. Where is this?
Yeah.
You still got your own bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, we want to So we want to create opportunities to meet these students where they're at.
Yeah.
And for some, this is going to be a lot more easier of a yes to join a friend.
Absolutely.
And come to a weekend conference and, hopefully hear some good music.
Yeah.
And hear from a speaker.
Yeah, it's funny what you just said there. Meet them where they're at. You know, that's we ended up getting a new pastor at Living Hope a little over a year ago now, Kevin Vanderveen, and that's something that he really brought as a message into our church was, not just from a youth standpoint, from a church standpoint.
Yeah.
We're not here to grow a church. We're here to grow the church of God.
Yeah.
Right. There is only one church.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, we have to go where they are.
Yeah.
If we're waiting for them to walk through our door, we're going to be waiting a long time.
And it can be, this is maybe a bit more of a internal discussion for the church to have, but there's a balance between meeting people where they're at, but also not shifting your beliefs.
Yeah.
Or, your theology or giving up certain things to make people feel welcome. Like, if that makes you uncomfortable, we are not going to do that. Because we don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
So there's that balance of, yes, we want you to feel you are welcome here, you are loved here, you are accepted here, but we are still going to hold dear these things and values that Jesus taught us.
Yeah, and, that we're accountable to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry if these things make you uncomfortable. I'm sorry.
Let's chat.
We're going to work through it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, let's talk about it. Let's, it's a bit of an educational piece. Like, let's talk about why we believe this. If you don't understand this or think it's wrong, let's talk about it.
Well, and biblically, there's always going to be, people have different ways of reading and interpreting, right? It's been that way forever.
I call it there's your primary theology and then there's secondary theology. Like our primary theology, I would say, is that we believe Jesus was the Son of God. He was fully man. He was fully God. He died on the cross and 3 days later rose from the dead to pay for your sins and my sins.
Yeah.
We can all agree on that. Should we baptize infants?
Right.
That's where some of us disagree. Should we pray to Mary? That's where some of us disagree.
Right.
Should we, there's all these other secondary theologies that we could argue about. But it's like, okay, do you believe? Because there's, Mormons, other beliefs. It's just like, we believe in Jesus. Do you believe he was God? Well, no, he was a good teacher.
Exactly, he was a prophet,
and that's where I would disagree.
Yeah,
respectfully.
Yeah,
that's actually not true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we can often get hung up on.
Would it be nice to know what the absolute truth
100%.
is? 100%. There's versus supporting arguments for some of these things on both sides.
Yeah.
But one thing you can argue is that Jesus was the Son of God.
Right. And I don't think we're meant to know everything. Yeah. I think that's why this is faith, right? I think there's an element of it we're supposed to just suspend whatever we feel is maybe right or wrong in what we're reading, but go, I believe in this because I have faith in Jesus.
I think it was Max Lucado. Pardon me. I think it was Max Lucado had a good analogy. Maybe look this up if you're listening, because I want to make sure I'm getting this right. It was about I think it was a captain of a ship, and I don't know if they had lost sailors. For some reason, he went to an island in this analogy and dropped off some of the sailors, and he had to go back out. And he said, "Listen, I want you to build a fire using the wood on this island, and then so when I come back, I can see where you guys are." And he left. And then they're like, okay, well, he pointed at these trees when he said build a fire. So I think we have to use this wood and this wood only. And they're like, well, no. He was gesturing over to this pile of wood over here. Or, it doesn't matter. And then he said, well, it has to be a big, I think he said big and tall. So I think we have to actually reach
trees
a certain height.
Right.
When we build this fire, it has to be a certain height, like maybe 7 feet tall. And we have to build up the wood. And,
how quickly did that fire get built?
Yeah, right. It's, but there was different factions. So everyone was building fires all along the island. And then the captain's coming back. He's like, where's the fire? Where do I go? Because there's so many fires on this island now, right?
Yeah.
Just be worried about getting the fire built. We can all agree that building the fire is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
There might be some differing opinions about what wood to use and how big to make it, but just build it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of I think that's the important messaging when you're talking about youth ministry.
Yeah.
That's the important message, right?
Yeah.
They're going to grow up and they're going to start diving in, possibly, maybe not. I was never a theological person that didn't, again, simple Christian.
Yeah.
Or try to be anyways. And, but then as they get older, they can choose to or not choose to go down that road.
And that's not to say that some of these secondary theology arguments are not important.
Nope.
I think they still are important. And I think if it's impressed upon your heart that you need to find out what is true when it comes to that, or you need to, go ahead, do the research.
Yep. Yeah.
Dive into the word, pray about it.
Exactly.
That's something between you and
Look
God,
for the
you
answers.
can figure it out.
Yeah.
There's some things for me. Yeah, I've had youth come up and ask me questions about things, and like, especially with end times things too. Recently, I'm like, I just know I'm saved. Like, some of these things aren't concerning to me, but you know what? Yeah, that's maybe something good we can talk about more.
Yeah, not something I'm going to think about often.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
let's chat about it.
But no, my mind is definitely there's one student at a church who asks a lot of deep questions, and I get where he's coming from. I get why he wants to know, and it's intrigued me a little bit too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's good. That's what, it's that critical thinking, those conversations that, are often lacking nowadays. And it's nice when you see it coming from somebody of a younger age.
Yeah.
So,
it's
not just taking what we're saying as the gospel, right?
Yeah.
Pushing us to actually be accountable to what we're encouraging them to.
Yeah. And I said that, it's just like, I'm glad that we have a student like him. I prefer that he be more critical about these things rather than just be lukewarm about them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah. So this summer, Living Hope, we're hosting, it's called Serve. It's through Therefore Go Ministries. We're going to have 27, 28, just under 30 youth from both here, Burdett, and also Washington State coming to Medicine Hat for a week. We're going to be serving the community, which is going to be an amazing experience. I've had the good fortune in the last 2 years. I was in Barrie, Ontario in the summer of 23, and I was in Abbotsford last year in the summer of 24. Are there any events that Hillcrest or YXH is planning over the summer? And then I'm going to ask you, how do you want to help out with ours?
Over the summer, youth ministry kind of winds down. Yeah. The one thing I would say that is really going on is we've got at Hillcrest, we do an annual pancake breakfast during Stampede Week.
Nice. Love it. Yeah.
And I think we had over 1,800 people come out last year.
I've gone.
It's been great. So that'll be July 22nd, I believe, if that's the Tuesday.
Do you just put that on as a church, or is it crazy?
Yeah, it's just a great ministry opportunity, community. Just like, let's just give to our community and expect nothing in return.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully they feel loved and accepted, and that maybe that short interaction with one of our staff or volunteers makes them feel comfortable and that they can come join us on a Sunday. But they don't have to. We're not making them promise to join us the next Sunday.
No, exactly. No
promise
pancakes.
You come? Okay.
No pancakes for you.
Yeah, exactly. YXH. So there's actually also YXH Young Adults that goes on in our city.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I'm not too involved with that as far as planning goes. But there isn't any YXH youth events until September.
Okay.
So end of September there'll be our
Everyone
first
takes
event.
a break.
Yeah.
Comes up for air.
Yeah, there's lots of great opportunities with summer camps, with Whispering Pines, with Eagle's Nest Ranch.
Nice.
I think there's another one, Pinecrest.
Yeah, because Eagle Nest is reopening.
Yeah. So they're full speed ahead.
Yeah. Which is super cool. So we're actually with our group the Thursday, so they're here for a full week. The Thursday, we're actually going out to Eagle's Nest. We're doing our work day out there, helping them in any way we possibly can to get that place even better. And then we get to stay the night out there.
Oh, nice.
And then we're spending our day away. The fun day for the group is going to be at Elkwater and Eagle's Nest on the Friday. So, yeah, actually, we're really excited. I know my son Elliot went out there years and years and years ago, back when it was functioning. But, yeah, it's exciting that they're getting it back up and running. It's such an incredible venue. For anyone that doesn't know where Eagle's Nest Ranch is, it's in the Cypress Hills, just southeast of Medicine Hat. Just a stunning venue. So,
incredible place. Yeah. So I mean, those are great places to either serve or even just attend. Send kids. But yeah, I would say get involved there if you can. Yeah.
So the future for Levi Cochrane. Going to keep doing what you're doing at Hillcrest. Excited for the fall to get things rolling again. What else is keeping you busy right now other than producing?
Well, I'm producing this podcast for you now.
I know, right?
It's been a bit weird doing the first episode as me as a guest.
We had a back out, but that's okay. So pivot.
No worries. But yeah, I mean, I was going to have to at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, doing this, spend time with family. We're going to be just enjoying a little vacation here over the summer together, Airbnb down in Montana. So
nice. What is your family?
So I got one sister.
Yep.
And she's married to Wade. So Danielle's my sister.
Okay.
Wade. And then they have two kids. One's 4 years old. One's just turned 1. So she'd be 1 in a few months here.
Perfect.
And then I've got my parents in town too. Nice. So we're all. Everybody's it's nice having town. Everyone in the same city.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
cool.
Pretty close. We spend every Sunday we have supper together. So
good for you.
Yeah.
There's something pretty special about that. So.
Yeah, no, I know it's rare, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, no kidding. I know I often, I think I said that earlier, I got kids are 19 and almost 22, but I get to work with them every day too.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate. There are moments where tensions, challenges arise.
I've heard a little over.
Yeah. You've been here enough. You've heard some of it. So, but it is a fortunate thing, and over time,
not many parents get to do that.
No, exactly. Now I'm not sure they would say the same thing, but I pay them, so they have to. So yeah, we'll see. But it is fun. Family's great, so that's exciting. I just actually was up in Calgary with my parents. Just had their 60th wedding anniversary. Oh wow! So yeah, a long time.
My parents just had their 40th.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's wild. 60 years. It's hard to believe, and you kind of look at both of them and go, you must love each other.
Yeah.
Because by that point you've annoyed each other so much.
Yeah.
There's got to be something keeping you together. So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So, so I guess if we could conclude this, what is your hope for the youth in the city of Medicine Hat? And I guess, is there a way that this community can better support, maybe not necessarily what your vision is, but the vision of youth ministry at Hillcrest Church? What are opportunities for this community as a whole to get involved and drive that vision forward?
That's a good question. I think if you aren't serving, if you are a Christian and you attend church, hopefully you are attending church somewhere. Get involved if you aren't already, whether that be in youth or wherever. But yeah, these youth they're the next generation of our church, of our communities, of our cities. Who's going to be the mayor in 20 years?
Yeah, that's right.
Who's going to be chief of police in 30 years? It's going to be these people.
Yeah.
Some of them at least. There's going to be people that come and go, but we need to invest into them. Same way the people invested into me when I was in youth, and we need leaders. We need people. We have to not be lukewarm in our faith and in the day to day. It can be easy to just cruise.
Guilty as charged.
Same. And but they need us. They need someone to guide them. and someone to lead them. And who's that going to be?
Yeah.
It could be the world, or it can be us.
Yeah.
So
I love
we can
that.
step in there and
Yeah.
be help them
be
and
that
mentor
influence.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I think it's worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go, communities. Not just Medicine Hat. I think that's important here. These are kids that are hungry for guidance, for mentorship, for leadership. If you have that in your heart, find a way to serve.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I would add to that is be open to the amazing transformation that you're going to experience when you start working with these kids.
Yeah.
Because it is pretty wild what happens inside of you.
Yeah. So, and if you're not a believer, there's other ways to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
There's other programs, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, stuff like that you can get involved with.
Tons of different opportunities and organizations. Yeah, absolutely. Levi, I want to thank you for your time.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The maiden voyage.
Yes.
So I think we got through it pretty unscathed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to thank you for your time. It was great to have you on here, and look forward to more talks on youth and leadership. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So that, folks, is the first ever episode of Retaining Purpose. We had a great guest in Levi Cochrane this week, and we hope that you do continue to check in. We're going to be posting a couple times a month starting in July. So hope you can listen in, check in, and follow along. Have a good day.